Mod. It's a very strange day to day here at Mod because there's only two people in the museum, myself, Debbie, and Samuel. We are the Museum of Discovery. We are looking at the intersection between science and art and trying to look at what the future might be like in our exhibit called Seven Siblings from the Future. So when you come to visit us next time when we reopen, you can find us on North Terrace adjacent to Morford Street Bridge in Adelaide, and you will be able to meet the seven siblings from the future. We talk to each of them, learn their personalities, and learn a bit of the science behind what they might want to do. Let's meet Kai.
Luca.
Oh, sorry, Luca. I'm getting it all wrong today.
I'm Luca, CEO of Luca. When I was a child, my siblings and I spent every summer in Luca's Beach. We would search for couples in the sand and swim in the sea. Now, we're adults, and each of us has our own dream. Julia wants to live in a shack, Ava in the sleeping park, and Kai wants to travel the world. Fortunately, I have a solution to make all our dreams come true. It's called Luca. The world's most luxurious marine estate. There is so much more than that. It's a magical, modern, miniature city. People want to move here all the way from Sydney and Stockholm because it's a world-class center of sustainable living. Luca Bay will be built based on people's desires. 100 acres, 1,000 dreams. What's your dream? Tomato patch? Or an art gallery? Do you want to begin each day watching the sunrise? What about away from the heat in our indoor nature reserve? And stay home, Dad. Don't worry about your grandkids and their lawsuits. Enjoy a luxurious breakfast with the kids at the pier. Take them to school via car share and enjoy the marine spa in your spare time. Admire the sunset from our own amusement park with the whole family. Luca Bay is all this and much more. Because we're not just selling homes, we're selling dreams. Using the building blocks we provide, dream up your other development and we will make it come true. You're in charge of your destiny.
I actually think you did pretty well, Luca, but that's okay. Luca's main concern when it comes to his particular world is looking at how we can create cities that are going to be sustainable and allow really big population growth. So if we're looking from now, Australia has about 25 million people, but in 2050, which is where Luca and their siblings live, the population's probably going to be a little over 40 million. So how do we take that big population and put them into spaces where we can actually live? That's question number one. What's the world population going to be, Samuel? About 9 billion, I think, is the estimate, somewhere around there. So that's only in 30 years, and the population of Australia is estimated to approximately double. That's a lot of people. The second thing that we need to consider when we're looking at future cities is sustainability. We already know that climate change is taking some really drastic effects on Australia. We've seen the seasons where we can do things like controlled burning to prevent bushfires has significantly decreased to a place where we are now putting ourselves at risk of major bushfires, similar to the ones that we saw over the summer this year already. So how do we prevent that happening in the future? So those are the two major things that we're going to be looking at, population and sustainability. Have you lived in a highly populated city before, Samuel?
I'm Samuel, your cameraman, by the way. She's not talking to thin air.
Introduce him. He's not as cool as me, that's why.
It's true. Yeah, well, there's lots of questions here. Everyone has their own opinion about what's important in a city. As Luca suggested, we can pick three most important things that we find in a city or a marina actually.
A marina is someone who like rides the boat, right?
Yeah, similar thing.
You can still look for some good qualities in them.
So we've got a few options. This one is, what have we got? Aquaculture.
Our aquaculture facility. So they have multiple different categories when looking at the kind of things we want to choose in our city. So if we pop over here, We can see lots of different examples of what we might be looking at in our city. So first off, when we were talking about a big question in population growth, that means that the way that we live and the spaces that we live in might have to change quite significantly. So we have multiple options for this. We could have multi-generational living. This has been practiced since the dawn of time pretty much, and it's a relatively new and Western phenomenon to move out of your parents' house when you're quite young and not move back in. There is a gradual change as well over time with when you look at economic stability of young people continuing to live with their parents at an older age, or moving back with children, or when they are in a couple later on in life. So that kind of multi-generational living in our Western world might be something that we're heading towards of just for purely economic reasons as well. But we could also live in a little capsule home. I can't even see the capsule home.
Yeah, I was looking for this the other day. Essentially, it's a similar concept to the mini homes that we have, tiny homes.
Tiny homes, yeah. So this is looking at trying to get as many homes into space as possible with a lot less square meterage in each house. So I don't know if you've seen those tiny home caravan style things. That's essentially what we're looking at. You need to consider psychology in this. Maybe we don't need as much space as we think we need when we're looking at gigantic mansions. But at the same time, when you have that high population density and you're always living right next to your neighbours, you can always hear what your neighbours are doing, seeing what they're doing, living in those small apartment complexes. It can lead to other issues, not only for your health and well-being mentally, but also if we're living in a time like now with a pandemic and multiple people are living on the same block and using the same surfaces and doors and shared space, there is a much higher risk of disease spreading through that particular community.
Yeah, so tiny homes might be the way to go in a situation like we're in.
They might be the opposite of what to go in.
Feel free to shout out any suggestions of what you would pick in your marina as we go along.
Yeah, I think there's another place to live, isn't there?
Yeah, there's your basic home as well.
Yeah.
It's not basic, but it's basic.
You're basic. So you can also look at the basic home. I have looked at this wall for 3 months. There we go. The basic home. So this is not going to be as small as that capsule home, which means requiring more space. It has the idea of the traditional nuclear family in mind when it's looking at the size of this space. But that might make a big impact on the actual size of the city. And we can look at how the health of a city when we're comparing a very highly population-dense, close living quarters in a city as opposed to a sprawling urban area. And a couple of things that we can consider here are people's access to public transport. When we have sprawling suburbs, people have more space, they're more likely to get a backyard, then they can get more nature in their life. It's easier to put more green space in there, but at the same time it's a lot harder to have public transport to places like your major business district where a lot of people live.
So I suppose, broadly speaking, you could say there are two common classes of city. We've got the sprawling suburbia, a bit like Adelaide and Los Angeles, two cities that go hand in hand, of course, and more built up, perhaps a little more chaotic cities as well. So they each have their own advantages and problems.
Yeah, so if you're in a place where there is a high population density, it often means that the places that you're going to be visiting are much more likely to be in walking distance for you.
We've just had a request to have a closer look at the aquaculture block. Let's have a look at that.
Sure. So this goes into question number 2, which is looking at how we can feed these cities and be sustainable. With such a high population, obviously we're going to need a lot of food, but agriculture takes land, and sometimes there are things in our agriculture that we could change to maybe increase our food production. One of them is suggested to be aquaculture. So aquaculture is using fresh water and fish in order to create a filtration system from the different here you go, I can turn it around as well.
Not
It
sure
creates
if
a filtration system that allows plants that are growing above those fish to have more nutrients than they would if they were growing in a different place. So not only are we then keeping it pretty nutritious, having pretty good food there, but we're also allowing ourselves to grow fish that can also be consumed. So you're creating two food sources in one place. So I'm pretty keen on the aquaculture. It's a bit of a trend at the moment among hobbyists, but hopefully we see a lot more of it in the future going forward.
Getting a lot of suggestions about green spaces.
Green space, great. So green space is another really important thing for our psychology, but also when looking at sustainability and preventing climate change. So places with less green space in the world are generally hotter. When we have a lot more concrete around, it's a lot harder for the whole city to cool down. The reason for that is because when we have trees, I'm going to try and find a green space thing to show you. Here we go. When we have trees, the sun allows the water from the trees and in the leaves to evaporate, and that adds moisture to the air, which ends up cooling that air down instead of letting it heat up. If you've walked on the hot Australian tarmac in the middle of summer, and I'm going to say thongs even though I want to say jandals, when your thongs get stuck to the roads, that's the kind of thing we're trying to prevent. It helps the whole city cool down. So green spaces are really important. This is one of them. I don't know what I think about this one. This one's called the Indoor Nature Reserve. I feel like maybe that will allow people to have a good psychologically healthy space to go. Having lots of plants indoors really helps filter the air and things like that, but it's not really solving the problem of the urban heating in the same way. So I'm in two minds about that.
Yeah. We're also getting a bit of chatter about virtual gaming spaces or virtual recreational spaces.
We have one that is a virtual recreation space.
Quite pertinent at this time.
I'm going to show you the Science and Research Centre while I look for it, though.
Settle down.
I can't like go that fast. Here it is. This is our virtual reality centre. This might be another way that we can overcome joy and pleasure when we can't physically visit places. So let's turn that around. These people are having fun in different countries or virtually experiencing things they wouldn't normally experience. This is particularly relevant right now because a lot of schools are shutting down around the world and kids can't go out and they can't go on these trips. It's a lot harder to learn when you're online. But with virtual reality, you could do things like go and see the pyramids, learn about the different ancient Egyptian pharaohs by actually experiencing it in a virtual world. So that really helps with education a lot. It also helps with the boredom in a very highly populated city as well. And it's something, this one looks like it's actually a centre set up for it. It's not something people are doing at home. But that might be the future of public entertainment and things like that.
Yeah. We've also had a question about a place for animal rearing, but we are actually going to cover that a little bit more at our 2 o'clock session today.
We will. We'll talk about that with a little bit.
Rowan, yeah.
But we can talk about it. What kind of animal rearing? Do you mean...
So it says anything but fish, because there is...
Anything but fish, there is. So this is actually quite interesting. We have the insect farm here, around here, but we don't have something that's looking at animal husbandry or anything that's looking at pets. So we're not sure if there's a vet here. Let's see where the insect farm is. So this is one way that we could rear animals. This is an insect farm. Insects are highly nutritious. They have lots of protein and things like that in them. And so they might be another really good food source. So the animals that are suggested in Ukalara Bay are only ones that we're going to be using for food. Unfortunately, with a lot of animal husbandry, things like dairy farming, they take up a lot of space. And because Ukalara Bay is supposed to be a compact metropolitan area, we're not going to see that kind of agriculture within the city itself. Very much like you don't see a lot of cows when you're walking through the middle of Adelaide at 3 p.m. So there's not a lot about that, but that does go back into those questions of how do we feed a growing population, because the more people there are, the more land is going to be needed for that animal husbandry if we continue eating or consuming meat at the same rate that Australians currently do. So that's another, where do we get that space? Is all space in Australia usable for that kind of land? Absolutely not. Does that mean we are going to have to drastically change our diet in order to meet those food demands?
This is right in Debbie's sweet zone, the agricultural questions.
I'm not an animal agriculturalist, though. I'm a plant agriculturalist, so I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best, but that is a really good question, because Yucallara Bay the idea behind it is to be set up as this luxury marina, and a lot of people see luxury as being able to access any food that they want at any time, being able to go down to the supermarket. But if we don't have the space outside of Yucallara Bay in order to rear those animals, people are going to be pretty sad.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you one of the ones that I think is really important, regardless of whether you use it or not. This is the Science and Research Centre. So this is not just a place for boring scientists in lab coats, of which I'm one, so yay. But it's a place that a lot of people can come.
Humble brag there.
Humble brag, totes. It's a place that a lot of people can come and do citizen science as well. Citizen science is another really important way of gathering information, especially when we're looking at things like in Adelaide, if we're trying to assess the population of, for example, plants and birds in different places. It really helps ecologists for citizens to go out and assess those different species they see, take a record along the beach of what kind of plants are seen, and then we can use that data and analyse that data to see what kind of trends we're seeing as the climate changes and the climate shifts. And with a really big population, if we're going to have 40 million people in Australia in 2050, a lot of those people, their brain power can work towards that kind of thing. Instead of science becoming this closed off, inaccessible space where only people who are like, yay, smart, can have access to it. Instead, this is bringing science into the community. It's fostering that interest in science. It's fostering that understanding and respect for science that we really need in a future world. We really need it now, but specifically so as our climate changes. So I think that's
We've had a question. Why is there a cyclist on a tightrope in the Science Centre?
Okay, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to try my best with this. This person over here is on a bicycle and they have a weight underneath them. So I think they're testing whether they can ride along the rope based on some sort of balancing versus gravity. That totally sounded sciencey, didn't it? Maybe, I'm thinking maybe they're testing ways of using transport along wires up the top instead of having to use roads.
Might be a solution for some of those more sprawling or those more built-up cities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're in the 85th apartment and you want to visit your friend in 85B, maybe you can run along your tightrope on your bike.
Yeah. I suppose, broadly speaking, Luca is looking at bringing everyone's dreams together. So if you can look past Luca's sales pitch, they're looking to, everyone has different passions and ideas and things they think are important. Luca is trying to bring all of those together in a cohesive manner.
Which is really exciting, because when we look at the future, we can ask these questions that seem very bland. How are we going to keep things cool? How are we going to house everyone? But it still really matters that people are able to pursue their passions and have a place where they enjoy living. So that is Yucallara Bay in the future. Hopefully you'll be able to see it when you get to 2052. But thank you for joining me today. We're going to be having a few more videos, so don't forget to jump back in and check us out later. Thank you.
We'll be looking at Rowan at 12 o'clock today, so feel free to tune in then. Thank you.